Pro Football Focus has the Commanders trading down from number 2 overall in their latest mock draft. Today on the Commanders Report, I'm going to be reacting to that mock as well as Charvarius Ward, one of the top-graded cornerbacks in the National Football League, has been linked to the Commanders as a potential trade target this offseason. Going to react to that as well. Then also ESPN put out a list of the top 50 free agents in the National Football League here for 2024 and has linked 3 of those free agents to the Washington Commanders. I'm going to be going over that here in just a second, so make sure you guys click that subscribe button here for breaking news coverage on the Washington Commanders all throughout the 2024 offseason. Every time they make a signing with the most amount of cap space in the National Football League this offseason, every time they make a trade, every time they make a big move, we're going to have you covered with a breaking news video. And then NFL free agency, NFL draft, we're going to have you covered with extensive coverage on both all offseason long, intense, in-depth scouting reports during the NFL draft season, and then going over the latest news and rumors surrounding free agency. It's going to be hitting us here in about a month. Okay, so it's going to get real spicy, real fast here on the Commanders Report. So do me a favor, it's all 100% free. Click that subscribe button right now. So now Pro Football Focus's Trevor Sikkema released his latest mock draft the other day here, and he's projecting that the Washington Commanders are going to trade twice in the first round, first moving back from 2 to 12 with the Denver Broncos here, and the Broncos are giving the Commanders a haul. 3 first-round draft picks and an additional second-round draft pick in 2025. So you move back from 2 to 12 this year. You get the Broncos' first-round draft picks for 2025 and 2026, and you get their second-round pick next year as well, and Drake May would be the pick for the Denver Broncos. And then you go from 12 to 10, so you're trading back up into the top 10 here with the New York Jets, giving them that first-round pick, number 12 overall. And pick number 40, that second-round pick that you have as well. And in exchange, you're moving up to number 10 and getting a third-round pick, number 73. And with that pick, they have the Washington Commanders taking quarterback out of the University of Michigan, J.J. McCarthy. All right, so you're passing up on Drake May to trade down, get a bunch of picks, and have J.J. McCarthy be your next franchise quarterback here with the Burgundy and Gold. This is what Trevor Sikkema has to say about this potential trade idea. Teams such as Falcons, Raiders, Broncos, and Vikings will all be looking to move up for a quarterback. Here, I have an aggressive Sean Payton moving up from number 12 to number 2 by giving up the same compensation package the 49ers offered to move up from number 12 to number 3 for Trey Lance in 2021. There's a bit of an added wheelin' and dealin' here for the Commanders as they move from number 2 to number 12 and then use some of their extra day 2 ammo to jump the Vikings for a talented developmental quarterback in Michigan's J.J. McCarthy. Now, if you ask me about my opinion on these moves, I think this would be a terrible idea for the Washington Commanders. You're sitting right there at number 2. Drake May, in my opinion, is a really, really good slam dunk quarterback prospect that's NFL ready. I think if Caleb Williams was not the number 1 quarterback in this year's draft class, he'd be the slam dunk number 1 pick. So you're going to trade back and get a lesser quarterback. I mean, I understand that you're going to be getting additional first round draft capital and another second round pick as well from the Broncos with this kind of package that they're getting. But it's like, if you're trying to get a quarterback, how about you get your guy? You get your favorite guy. Now, it's another thing if you think J.J. McCarthy is the better quarterback between Drake May and McCarthy, but I really don't think that's the case personally. And my big question for the Washington Commanders is why draft a developmental type quarterback that's still a bit younger? He hasn't had a ton of pass attempts in college either. A very run heavy offense there with the Wolverines. I think he's going to have to take at least a couple years to really get his feet wet in the National Football League, and that's assuming he becomes a success in this league. So I would rather go with the more NFL ready prospect in Drake May, somebody I think that has a better overall profile than J.J. McCarthy. Now, I don't hate McCarthy, okay? I think he has the potential to someday be a starter in this league, but he definitely has some pros and he has some cons. Let's go over the pros first. All right, pocket presence and footwork is legitimately really good with J.J. McCarthy. He can feel pressure. He moves in the pocket well. He plays with good base, and he plays with really good footwork from within the pocket. Then when he needs to escape the pocket, he's a really good athlete. He's a plus athlete. I wouldn't necessarily call him dynamic like a Lamar Jackson, a Jaden Daniels, or a Justin Fields, but I do think that you have to account for him in the run game. You cannot let this guy loose and give him all the space in the world. Then he's got a pretty darn good arm, and then, of course, the intangibles are there. He's a good leader. He played well in the clutch there with the Wolverines down the stretch in that national championship run. But then you look at the cons here, and the touch passing is concerning to me. It seems like he likes to throw that fastball, that line drive type of pass, but he doesn't really layer footballs across the middle of the field, and that's concerning to me. Number two, it's a lot of one-read quarterbacking there with J.J. McCarthy. It was a lot of play action. It was a lot of easy reads for him to go through, and I'm not sure if he's ready necessarily for a progression-style offense in the National Football League, at least in year one. Also, he is a bit skinny. He is 6'3", but he is close to 200 pounds, which isn't exactly ideal in terms of size for an NFL quarterback. Now, he's still young. He could still fill out, but in terms of a first-year prospect, not sure if he's got the size that you're looking for, like, say, a Drake May has. And then the favorable surroundings. I mean, this guy, let's just face it, Michigan was stacked on both sides of the ball. They had great offensive line, great run game, really good weapons as well. And he was just in a situation where every time he stepped on the field, he had the best coaching and he had the best players around him, both sides of the football, every single time. So all he had to do is not screw things up, and to his credit, he did that, but is he somebody that's going to be able to go into a bad situation with a bad O-line and kind of a developing situation, a rebuilding team in the National Football League, and really become their guy and their franchise quarterback worth $45, $50, $55 million per season when he gets to his second contract? I'm not too sure. For me personally, guys, if you're sitting at number 2 overall, you got to take one of the real blue chip type quarterbacks. You don't trade back and settle for a guy like J.J. McCarthy, in my opinion. If you got Drake May and Jaden Daniels in your sights, pick one of those guys and call it good. You don't have to get too fancy. You don't have to make things complicated by trading back and then trading back into the top 10 to take a quarterback. If you're going to take a quarterback, just take one at number 2 and call it good. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Should the Washington Commanders consider taking this trade package from the Broncos if they offer it to new GM Adam Peters? Type A if you're going to accept it, or type D if you're going to decline. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show, so YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. So now let's shift to a Bleacher Report article here that links Charvarius Ward, one of the best and highest graded cornerbacks in football last year, to the Washington Commanders as a potential trade target in 2024. The author of this article is Christopher Knox from Bleacher Report. This is what he has to say. Dan Quinn, talking about the head coach, has a defensive background, and we should expect Washington to put a lot of focus on that side of the ball before the draft. Trading for cornerback Charvarius Ward would significantly boost a pass defense that ranked dead last in yards allowed last season. He allowed an opposing passer rating of only 64.5 in coverage in 2023, and he could be available. The 49ers have just $570,837 in projected cap space. Ward, who is entering the final year of his contract, is set to carry a cap hit of $17.9 million. Ideally, Washington would secure the 27-year-old for minimal trade compensation by agreeing to take on some of the $17.2 million in dead money remaining on his deal. With a league-high $83.6 million in cap space, the Commanders have the financial flexibility to make it happen. So now Bleacher Report is suggesting that the Commanders give up their third-round pick this year, number 67 overall, or at least one of their third-round picks. They do have the 101st overall pick too as well because of the Chase Young trade, for Charvarius Ward, who was top 5 in Pro Football Focus grading among corners in 2023. And then also they're suggesting the Commanders would take on some of the dead cap that the 49ers would otherwise have to take on in a trade like this. So coming up here, I'm going to let you know, would I take this deal for Charvarius Ward to come here and play for the Washington Commanders? Before I give you my answer, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. Football season may be over, but the fun with Prize Picks never stops, as you can enhance your viewing experience for March Madness, NBA basketball, MLB baseball, and even NASCAR with our friends at Prize Picks, which is a skill-based, real money, daily fantasy sports game. If you're wondering how it works, here's how you play. Pick 2 to 6 players, and if they'll go for more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can even win up to 25 times your money on any entry. Right now, they just started doing MLB season-long projections, guys, so this is my projection here for the MLB. You can go batting average, you can go total home runs, you can go stolen bases. They got a bunch of stuff for a bunch of different players. So if you love the MLB, if you love even NASCAR, they got stuff for that on there. Whatever you love watching, whatever you love playing here, you can do it on Prize Picks right now by checking it out now at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. With Prize Picks, it takes less than 60 seconds to make your picks. So get started right now. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. Now for me, guys, if San Francisco is willing to deal Charvarius Ward to the Washington Commanders for a third-round pick, I am going to be on board with that decision, all right? Charvarius had a really good season in 2023. Was one of the best in terms of Pro Football Focus grading last year, graded out at an 84.7, which was top 5 among NFL corners. Really, really good stuff from him. And you're just not going to find a corner in the third round that's going to be as good as Charvarius Ward is right now. In that round, you're just not going to find a guy like that. So the cap hit is going to be at least $13 million if you trade for him, which, it's not nothing, all right? That's a pretty decent penny that you're going to have to pay Charvarius Ward, but it's less than some of the top guys in free agency that you would be expected to sign this year. Anyway, L'Jarius Sneed is expected to make $17.5 million per season. Kendall Fuller, if you bring him back, you're expected to bring him back for pretty much the same amount of money as a Charvarius Ward here. 13.3 per year is his projection. So at the end of the day, guys, I know Ward is a little bit more expensive, but if Dan Quinn really wants that number one corner on the outside here, I think Ward is an option, especially if the 49ers are desperate to get him off their books and are willing to give up a third-round pick, or at least will give up the third-round pick, which I think is a great value, in order to get him in our building. So let me know down there in the comment section, how high of a draft pick would you trade for Charvarius Ward? Give me a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6, or a 7, or just say none for me down there in the comment section. For me personally, the highest I'm willing to go is probably a third-round pick, but let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. So now let's talk free agency here, where ESPN listed out their top 50 free agents in the National Football League heading into the offseason, and they connected 3 of those as perfect fits for the Washington Commanders. So first one is Jonah Jackson, the offensive guard from the Detroit Lions. Now, we all know that the Detroit Lions have a pretty darn good offensive line. Jonah Jackson was definitely a big part of that. This is what Matt Bowen, the author of the article from ESPN, had to say about this fit. Fitting into Cliff Kingsbury's offense in Washington, Jackson would immediately upgrade the left guard position. He can keep the pocket firm in pass protection, which is needed in D.C., as the Commanders allowed 65 sacks in 2023, tied for the second most in the National Football League. But Jackson is also an interior mauler who can create daylight in the run game, which could help spring Brian Robinson Jr. Now, I will say about Jackson, he's been a really good guard in his career, but last year was definitely a down year compared to what he has been. A 61.0 Pro Football Focus grade, about average in terms of NFL offensive guards last year, which is one of the reasons why the Lions are expected to move on from Jackson this offseason. And the projected contract, according to Pro Football Focus, is just over $10 million over 3 years. That's per year. So that's $10.25 million per season. And for an Interior offensive lineman, that's a lot of dough. I know the Commanders have a ton of cap space, but I'd rather spend that cap on like a corner or offensive tackle even, right? I'd rather go and get a more higher priority position. And then, hey, you can get a decent offensive guard in the NFL draft to start for you this year. You can kick Andrew Wiley, who I don't think is a good tackle anymore, inside to guard where I think he's better suited. I think there's other options than overpaying for a, granted, really good offensive guard that had a down year last year. I just don't know if that's a great fit for the Washington Commanders moving forward. The second target that ESPN lays out for the Commanders this offseason is Kyle Dugger, the safety, very versatile player from the New England Patriots. This is what Bowen has to say about the fit. Slotting the versatile Dugger into Dan Quinn's defense makes a lot of sense. With his rare position versatility at 6'2" and 228 pounds, Dugger can be deployed at multiple levels in sub-package personnel to create impact and production. So personally, guys, I think that Cam Curl is going to get tagged, okay? I don't think Kyle Dugger is going to be somebody the Commanders have their eye on because I think Cam Curl perfectly fits what Joe Witt Jr. and Dan Quinn want to do defensively here in Washington. And honestly, guys, I think Dugger gets tagged as well. I think the Patriots are going to give him that tag. It's just over $16.5 million to tag a safety in the National Football League these days. And I think Dugger is the type of guy that they really love to have in that type of system. Lots of safeties on the field. He can play hybrid linebacker. He's a hard hitter, very fast, very versatile player, and I don't think the Patriots are going to want to let him go. Now, target number 3 from ESPN. Interesting here, Tony Pollard coming to the Commanders after being a Dallas Cowboy for his entire career to this point. Definitely an interesting choice here from Matt Bowen. This is what he has to say about it. With Antonio Gibson heading to free agency, the Commanders could target someone like Pollard on a short-term deal to create a backfield rotation with Brian Robinson Jr. I like that duo. Washington could then reduce the workload for Pollard while maximizing his dual threat ability. Now listen, I like Tony Pollard, all right? He is a good, solid back. But he's going to want a lot of money after the kind of year that he just had there in Dallas. And I don't think I'm going to be willing to give him that because my priorities are on edge rusher. My priorities are at offensive tackle. My priorities are on corner this offseason. So listen, if you have the money and you can give it to him and you can make it work, great. I'm just not sure if that's going to be the case. And I do like Brian Robinson Jr. and Chris Rodriguez Jr., who I thought had a really good end to his rookie season last year. And listen, if you want another running back, all right, the priority should be getting one in the draft because you want that contract control. You want, and these guys spring up out of nowhere, right? You can get a good running back that can be a contributor for you right away in like the 4th, 5th round nowadays in the National Football League draft. So there's good running backs always coming into the league. I would rather draft a running back if you feel you need to add somebody to the ranks. Now, comment below for me down there in the comment section. Are you paying $8 million per season for Tony Pollard to come to the nation's capital? Give me a yes or give me a no down there in the comment section. $8 million is what Pollard is expected to make on his next contract. So let me know if you're going to pull that trigger. That'll be it for today's show, Commanders fans. Thank you so much for all of your support. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button for me right now for extensive Commanders coverage all throughout the 2024 offseason.